Dear goodness, you're saying this man has too much time in his hands. But then haven't we all? We all have too much time in our hands at the moment. So this is a good time I find for doing a video testimony on spiritual awakening or spiritual experiences. And I ask, did you ever have a spiritual experience? And how did you feel when you had that spiritual experience? Uh, do you still think about it, or has this question only made you think about it now? And if so, that's good. That's really good, because uh, my whole journey has been about spiritual experiences and then tests of faith. Uh, so it's not all this high. Here's Martin. He must be very. Every time you read his wee testimony there, God's been very close in doing something. But there's always been those tests of faith that can be extreme, to say the least. Some of them. And 25 years ago, when I had come back from my prodigal son type days, I like calling it a prodigal son type days, because that, to me, that was I relate to that prodigal son type and going away to do my own thing, what I wanted, and away from God the Father, who had been very much involved in my life up to I was about 14. And then when I had about 14 and I was maturing a bit, and I was growing up amidst the troubles and that there here, and my mind then became like anybody listening to this, watching this, that it can happen to anybody. Any of us, we were all baptized, most of us are all baptized. So we're baptized into Christ, and therefore, we're sons and daughters of the Father. Now, I'm not going into any where people of atheist or agnostic or different cultures, or I'm only speaking for myself on what I know, and that is that because of my baptism, because of your baptism, I believe wholeheartedly that you become a son and daughter of God. And that's one of the reasons why you get that awakening. And that's where I got that awakening. When I was baptized, that awakening was there. It was slow, but it was there with me up to 14. So God was very close to me. When I was young, when I would go into the country and that, God was with me. I saw him in the countryside. I felt his closeness. I would speak to him. I knew he was there. It wasn't as if wasn't as if I would go and like, I have to go and pray to God. I just felt his presence. I just felt God there. I loved to go to the shore, and I would sit for hours on the rocks on the shore, and I would just take in God's nature. Until I had about 14. After confirmation, especially confirmation when you're to be strengthened. It comes after your baptism. We get strengthened in confirmation to defend the faith. That's what it's for. And I went away, instead of defending the faith, I went away and really gradually began to lose the faith. It was always there. I never lost it completely. I always had the faith, no matter what had happened, because there were things that I would never. There were places that I would never have went to, levels I would never have reached, and things I would never have done, because there was something. My conscience was there, and my conscience was telling me, no, you're not to do that. And my conscience, I always believed my conscience was to do with God. I had a conscience there, a right and wrong. And it was my conscience that woke me up just over 25 years ago. It was my conscience that awakened and made me aware of just where I had come to. what I'd been doing, where how far I had went. And all I'd done is what is asked for, what God's asked for this very special day, this day of feast of divine mercy. And the message of that there is very clear. The message is clear. Come back to God. Return to me. Return to me. I'm full of mercy. That's what is his message. That and unless we return to God, which he says, we will never find peace. And he is who he says he is. That has been my life, or my quarter century experience of the Christ and God, is that he is who he says he is. And it's took me, I never found that out in a day. It took me all those years to find it and learn from him. And that's what I come up with. He is exactly who he says he is. And he can do what he says he can do and more. And if you want that, he asks, and he's waiting with open arms like that prodigal father. So for me, these wee testimonies would be hopefully that someone out there has experienced something similar, or has had an awakening, some type of spiritual awakening, and he maybe spoke to some grandmother, a grandfather, mother, a clergy person, religious person, teacher, whoever, or somebody goes to church regularly, or and they've spoken to them about things, or they've maybe somebody that they thought, oh, I can speak to him, but I better not say it to my friends and stuff. And I find that, that I found that with some, very, very, the last people you would think would speak in tender and what's the word I'm looking for, vulnerable ways. I've seen them, and I've talked to them, and when they opened up, and you could see that vulnerability behind the big hard cases and the hard shells, and you could see God in there, absolutely no doubt, and to affirm and confirm those people who find it very, very difficult to believe that God would love them because they were hard and tough, and was the sort of people that, but when they recognized that in their hearts, God never looks at an outward appearance. Even Jesus says that in the gospel. God doesn't look at an outward appearance. He sees the heart and what's going on. He sees what's happened to you and me and everyone else. He knows their journey, and he knows their pains and their sorrows and the obstacles to their paths. He knows all that. And that's why he asks to know the judge. Let him be the judge. And that's part of this video, is that's the message of divine mercy, this message that I would so love to put across, so desire to put across, this message of divine mercy, because in that message it says that mercy will come before the justice, and I would love everybody I know to accept God's love and mercy. I experienced that justice in a way because I experienced what it was like to be separated from God, and it was the worst nightmare, the worst experience, the worst terror. There was nothing like it that I could ever, and I went through some things in my life, and I've never ever experienced anything even close to what that was like, to be separated, or to feel separated from God, or that forsakenness from God.